posted on the street side, nothing but a beat and a blanket. I'm just asking if a brother got some change. And I ain't talking money out your pocket, taking quarters out your wallet. I'm just asking for a second out your day. There's so much going on, and I know you probably seen it. Posted on the gram, and I know you probably tweeted. And yeah, you did a little, but I really need a lot. I know I put you on the spot, but I need everything you got. I need some real Tom Cruise type action, like we batted IRL, not just type action. No rest, how we fight back in. This can't be another case of us all capping. Now that can't happen. Need to see some real change for me. Do you got some change for an artist? Just an artist trying to see a little change. You ain't gotta empty out your pockets, but if really that's an option, then the world won't stay the same. Everything is for the team, cause we all one side. Crazy one person's change could affect the world wide. It don't matter how much you got on you, I'm just trying to reach inside you. I'm just asking for a little bit of change. Let me get a little personal. I done seen too many people close to me not giving to it everything they got. And whether you be silent or a racist, you still on the same basis, and you might as well be kneeling with the cops. Don't act like you can't breathe now, cause I've been holding my breath for too long. Same story, same tune, same song. They said that the history repeats itself and we can all attest to it. Honestly, I'm done with being nice. Don't ask me where the pain at, you know where to blame at. Talking about the cause, but the heart is where the flame at. See my brothers killed and then you wonder how I take that fire to the money in the system that they care about. See, I worry about the wrong change. If you worry about destruction, what's the purpose of a system if it don't function? I can even count it on my fingers all the times we've been wrong. And 400 plus years is too long. I'm asking for some change for me. Do you got some change for an artist? Just an artist trying to see a little change. And you ain't gotta empty out your pockets, but if really that's an option, then the world won't stay the same. Everything is for the team, cause we all one side. Crazy one person's change could affect the world wide. It don't matter how much you got on you, I'm just trying to reach inside you. I'm just asking for a lot of bit of change. It's time for you to stand up. If you got your knee on our necks, you better stand up. If you've been sitting sideline, you better stand up. If you on the front lines, we know they can't stand us. We all walking hand in hand, just like how we planned it. If you got your knee on our necks, you better stand up. If you been sitting the sideline, you better stand up. If you on the front lines, we know they can't stand us. We all walking hand in hand, just like how we planned it. And we still working for it. And I don't care if I die, it's what I'm working towards. It's for my...
Hey everyone, sorry for the late start here. I ran into some technical issues with my computer. For some reason the sound wasn't coming through, so it took me a second just to anyway, sorry. See who's here. Hey Nova, and I think is that you, Phuong, here in the chat as well. As usual, we'll give people about 10 minutes to show up. Sorry, I'm a little disorganized. I started trying to quit smoking yesterday, so today has just been awful. It's kind of slow telling me how many people are here in the stream. I fixed the chat thing though, so people should be able to see what people are saying. Let's get that there. So, oh Jesus, quite a lot of people have already shown up. Okay, awesome. Yeah, like I said, we'll just give people a few minutes to show up. I usually don't start actually discussing the writing until 10 after. But happy Saturday to everyone. I hope everybody had a nice Friday evening. Wow, I'm actually surprised how many people showed up this quickly. Usually it takes a few minutes for people to show up. Like I said in the group tonight, we'll be critiquing Phuong's short story. Now she's actually going to come on to the show this evening, and for the first time, she's going to read her story. Because usually, I read the writer's story at the beginning of the stream before we kick off the critique. But I was saying that I want people who wrote their story to actually be the one that comes on and read the story for themselves. So I'm actually looking forward to this. Did anyone do anything interesting this week? It's been almost 10 days. Or no, I think the last time we met was on the 6th. So about a week since we last chatted. Anyone do anything interesting? I've been doing Fiverr jobs, freelance jobs, in between working on the group. And it's been just awful. I was talking, we did the group sort of silent writing on Thursday, and I talked about it a little bit there. It was actually really awesome doing that. I think it was somewhere around 6 or 7 people were there. doing that silent writing. It was actually nice. So we all met up on Microsoft Teams, and then we just sort of put everyone's mic on mute, and we wrote silently for about it would have been about 45 minutes, and then afterwards we just kind of talked about what we wrote, and we had a nice little chat. It was really nice. Let me just see what the chat's saying here. This is what I've been waiting for. I can't wait for this. I love when authors read their work. Yeah, I do too, actually. It just adds that element of voice that they can sort of project onto the writing. I missed out on the group writing. Glad it went well. Yeah, it did well. It did go well. I mean, it'd be cool if more people showed up. I wasn't really hosting it though. Katarina was hosting it. She's another member in this group. She messaged me saying she wanted to do it, and I was down to do that. So she sort of hosted the show. I just kind of hung out with them. But a few people from Writing Around showed up, and it was really awesome. I really enjoyed it, actually. Who else is here right now? Anyone else from Writing Around? I mean, I see Nova and Phuong is here. I'm just gonna put a quick notice on the group here that we're officially live. We're at 193 members. It's crazy. I'm going to do something awesome when we hit 200. Hey, Bernadine. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but when we hit 200 members, I'm going to do something, and I'm going to put a video up on it on the group, so you can look forward to that. I said I was going to do it at 150, but I decided I liked the number 200 more. Just a second here. I never know what background to put for these things. It just makes them pop out in the group a little bit if you do that like background image behind the text. But they're all so ridiculous, I never know which one. Alright, I'm gonna put this one. Two people just hanging out. Let's see here. Holy chat. Hey, Bernadine. You mean the writing class? If you're talking about the group silent writing thing, it wasn't really a writing class. It was just kind of us hanging out. Katarina provided like a prompt for people that wanted to just kind of write from the seam of their pants, and then at the end we all just kind of shared what we wrote about and chatted a little bit. It was awesome. Philip's here. Hey, Philip. Jamal's here. Excellent. Wow, everyone's really chatty this evening. I love it. Sometimes people are... I think it's because we're starting to get to know each other a little bit more. The same people are showing up when we do this, and people are a little bit more comfortable. So I like that. Yeah, it was about an hour. We wrote about ghost taxis, yeah. We most certainly did. Who here read the story this week? And who here is going to read this for the first time? You guys are ridiculous. Let's see here. I read the story earlier today. Perfect. Okay. Jamal read it. Awesome. There's actually there's some stuff I want to talk about in this story. But we'll let Phuong read the story first. So, if I call you through Facebook right now, is that going to work out? We'll get you on the stream here, and we can start the reading. Yeah, that happens, Nova. Don't worry about it. All right, let me see here. How am I going to do this? Here, I get self-conscious people watching me. Let me just do this for a second. I don't like people watching me trying to figure things out. It makes me nervous. Here we go. All right, let's see if this works.
Hi, Dominic.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Very good, thanks. Welcome to the stream.
Oh, awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you on, and thanks a lot for being the first one to do this. I'm sure it's a little bit intimidating to be the first one to come on here live and read your story for everyone.
Oh, I'm looking forward to sharing my story. I'm a bit nervous as well, and this is my very first story ever. So, and given the opportunity to be able to share amongst your community, to receive feedback, and yeah, just, you know, being me here, vulnerable, I'm excited.
Wow, wow. Yeah, I'm excited too, honestly. And to tell you the truth, I'm a little nervous too because I haven't had anyone here sort of to talk to yet during the stream. I've just kind of babbling to myself most of the time. So don't be worried. But here, why don't we start out instead of just diving right into the writing? Why don't you tell us a little? I mean, you said it's the first story you've ever written.
Yeah, I wanted to write. I was in the middle of doing an autobiography. I wanted to turn into fiction, but then all of a sudden, I had this urge to write something that's just completely out of my field, and I wanted to understand character. I wanted to understand how to write. So I thought I'd just set up a short story, less than 1,000 words, on a theme, and get it out there. And because I don't know how to write. I don't know about, because I'm weak on my grammar. I don't understand characters. I don't understand personality, psychology of things. So I've been learning about psychology for the past 4 years, and I love movies and I love characters. And this short story just helped me be inspired, of maybe, look, just put together something and find a group that be able to help me direct my writing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole point.
Wow, that's awesome. It's pretty amazing. This is your first story. I mean, we'll get into it more later on, but some of your descriptions in this were awesome, like really good. So probably some of the
Oh,
best I've seen in the group yet, to be honest.
thank you. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna be teary.
No,
I,
no. I'm sure. I mean, there's lots to say. We'll get into it, but I did want to say that. I mean, I'm pretty amazed that this is your first, because you said it was a short story, right? That's what we said in the email.
that's right. That's right. Absolutely, a short story. And I wanted to practice. I wanted to write, and I did a brain dump, and it just came. This writing just came, and then I did the first edit, and then I attended your very first group class, and I gave some of my feedback as well. And I loved your first class, by the way. Um, and from what you taught and what you shared, I went back to my writing and I edited it again. So again, I'm still a student, still learning, every little pieces of whatever you guys have experienced. I want to be able to bring that into my writing. So this has come a long way from your very first class.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, it's weird to hear you say words like taught and all these shows and like, because I mean, it was such a random decision for me to kind of put this group together and do these shows. So to actually hear that it's having an effect on the writers in the group, and to hear that you've gotten feedback or information from myself or other people in the group that's actually impacted your writing, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, I've got you guys to thank.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we love having you here. And again, thank you so much for providing your writing this week so we can take a look at and everybody can kind of learn.
All right, cool. Ready
Okay.
to get through it?
Okay. Well, I'm going to let you go right ahead if you want to start reading your story. The way this is work is I'm going to let you read your story. Then we're going to end the call. We're going to discuss it as a group. And then at the end, if you want to come back on and make some final thoughts, or if there's anything you wanted to maybe um, go up against that maybe you didn't agree with something that a group member said, or what have you. If you have some final thoughts you want to make, you're more than welcome to share them.
No worries. I'm
Okay.
happy for all feedback because
Okay.
this is just the beginning. Thank you, guys. Thanks, everyone. All right.
You go right
The
ahead.
Adventure of Princess Sayako. I am Princess Sayako and soon to be Empress Sayako of Japan. pouting my lips outwards and slowly gazing downwards after looking at my reflection in the gold framed mirror. Placing my heavy head in my hands, shaking it left to right, and letting out a low whimper. Layers of red and gold silk brocade cloth adorned my body with an obi wrapped around my waist and disguising my figure. Pearly white powder covered my youthful face and hid my scar located on the right side of my cheekbone. Rouge lips enhancing my downward lips, and black eyebrow pencil shaping my brows. My head felt like throbbing pain, resulting from the adorned gold and floral embellishments, pulling back my beehive ebony hair. My slanted eyes seemed to be more apparent as I continued to scrutinize myself on this final day of my last identity. Finally, I get to spend a few minutes by myself in my quarters after the full commotion of people trying to dress me up like a rag doll since sunrise. The cool breeze brushed against my skin as my eyes gazed into the Zen garden for the last time. Sakura filled the air, and in the near distance, an increasing volume of the ensemble of cymbals, strings, flutes, along with the gong and drums started to play, and a voice over the loudspeaker announced, Princess Sayako, marriage to Emperor Kokaku. The wedding will be going ahead and proceeding at noon today in Hameji Central Park. My confused thoughts appear again. I want to understand the purpose of marrying someone you don't love. Is it for the sake of the country? Will I ever marry someone I love? What is love? Is it the heart pounding out of my chest and feeling of my blood circulating excitedly underneath my skin like the time I spent with Soul? There is this tender feeling when I'm with Soul. Time slows down and just only two of us in this world. When we are alone, our touches are electrifying and sensual, and wherever we walk, our worries of the world disappear. I can imagine still so vividly his warm embrace, his heart beating against my chest, and my cheeks as rouge as my lips right now. When we run through the fields together and bath in the river under the golden sun, that is the taste of freedom, something I have never encountered. It was just two souls intertwining in the meadows, flowing with the wind. My eyes drooped from the thought of not being able to see him again as I let out a sigh. I remember the first time we met as if it was yesterday. Hello, beautiful. He sweetly said as if it was like out of a movie scene. I remember my eyes locking with his hazel eyes, irradiating brown sun warmth with inner gold, and his smile reaching from ear to ear. His thick brown hair, from which caramelized sugar to the deep earthy hue shapes his face, and thick brown hair, from which caramelized sugar to the deep earthy hue also shaped his face, and with every word he spoke, gravity would pull us closer. I have to get this memory out of my head. It is forbidden. My parents have been so strict on me, and I know they won't allow me to marry a commoner, especially outside my culture. My fingers pressed against my heart to stop the tears from forming. All I could feel was the fast pace of my heart beating and shallow breathing. There was a knock at the door which startled me. Princess Sayako, there is a gift for you. Excited by my trusted servant Yuzuna behind the door. Come in, and what is it that you have for me? I asked curiously, taking myself back into the present moment. Yuzuna softly whispering and closing the door behind her. A box delivered from someone special. Yuzuna gently passed the gift into my hands, recognizing the floral silk cloth. I quickly unwrapped the present on the carved mahogany table beside us. Fresh picked yellow field flowers surrounding the object, and memories started to flood back. There it was, my little black book, and my boxwood comb engraved with my initials, SK. Why has it returned to me? I whispered to myself. Yuzuna stood there silently, waiting to receive further instructions. I turned the front cover, and the characters were in black calligraphy. My dearest Sakura, I hope this gift reaches you in time. The news had finally reached me about your arranged marriage to the Emperor. Meet me on the east side of the riverbank on the Red Bridge where we first met. I will wait for you there. I hope you follow me to the end of the world where you can watch the sunset and ride our horses to where the end of the earth meets the sea. We can dream and lie under the infinite sky where the sun and moon meet at the same time. If you turn the pages in this book, I have recorded our time together, an imprint of my heart, soul. I flipped through the next few pages to his writing and then closed the book. My fingers lightly touched the front cover as if it was his tender face, and then held the book in my arms firmly as the tears rolled down my cheeks and onto the page. My lungs took a deep breath, my nose pressed against the cloth, immediately recognizing his musky scent. My body ascended off the ground. Forgive me, I whispered to myself. I spun towards Suzuna with a hurried voice. Get my sandals ready.
You read that wonderfully. Thank you so much for reading that. Okay, I just got a text message. There might be something wrong with my grandmother. So I'm going to give her a quick call. You guys talk about the story just for a few minutes. I'm going to end the call, Phuong, but thank you again so much for coming on here, reading your story, okay?
Thank you, thank you.
Okay. Okay, just 2 seconds, guys. Hi, sorry about that. My brother is not a smart person. He texts me, being like, "Have you talked to my man? Like, what do you mean? What's wrong?" She's a 90-year-old woman, so if you text someone like that, you're gonna think that something's wrong. My lord. Anyway, again, thanks so much to Phuong for coming on here and reading that. It was a really beautiful reading, actually. And that's why I want people to come on here and read their own stories. I mean, if I had read that, I could not have done the story justice the way she did. So thank you again so much. And anyone else who's sending and writing, be prepared to do the same. And don't be nervous. What the fuck? Oh my god, my brother's driving me crazy. Just gotta get rid of the phone. Okay, what's everyone saying here? All I see is Noah talking about voyeurism. Why am I not surprised? Hope my internet doesn't lag. No, your internet was pretty good. Near the end, your voice phone broke in a little bit in and out just because of the internet connection, I felt like, but for the majority of it was pretty good. I was trying to follow along with the text on the screen so people, if it got a little muffled for people, they could still see. Buffering. Oh, Jamal, were you able to hear what was said? I didn't realize you were having buffering issues. I was trying to pay attention to the story. Should we start with the first paragraph? Any suggestions? Yeah, we're going to start from the beginning here. So I'm just going to get up to date with what everyone's saying. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so let's talk about the first paragraph. Love the first. So Jamal says he loved the first paragraph, or description of the first paragraph. I think you should write that in past tense using an active voice. For example, I patted my lips outwards and slowed gaze downwards. I think he meant slowly. Yes, I felt. Yeah, okay, I was a little bit confused. Pouting my lips outwards and slowly gazing downwards after my reflection, or after looking at my reflection in the gold frame mirror. Okay, so I just want to say first, I like the description gold frame mirror. I know it sounds very simple. It's very simple language, but that's what I often say is clarity is key. And there's just anyone can picture a gold frame mirror, and especially the way her body language and looking up and down, all these things, it's very easy to imagine. So I thought that was good. But yeah, patting my lips outwards and slowly gazing downwards after looking at my reflection. I didn't really what's the point of slowly gazing downwards? I mean, maybe for the sake of showing sadness, but what do people think? You might even read outwards in first sentence. Patting by definition is lips outwards. Yeah, no, he is right about that. Patting my lips outwards. Outwards is redundant. You could just say patting my lips and gazing downwards. I think probably the problem I'm having is slowly gazing downwards. It's kind of a cliche. So let me just start here. I think that's a good description. This is redundant. Jamal is 100% correct. It's unnecessary. And I just think this part here, I think, I mean, I get why it's there. I'm pretty sure you're trying to express sadness, but just the slowly looking down. I mean, it's very theatrical. It's very. I mean, do people really do that when they're on their own in a room? Do they just look at the ground? I mean, it just feels like the kind of thing that you'd see in a movie. Yeah, I want to explain sadness. Yeah, so I got that, the expression of sadness in the text. But I think there might be a better way to do it. Like I've said before, I mean, cliches will hurt the originality of your writing. It will hurt the originality of your characters. So if you can find maybe, I mean, this whole piece is built on a lot of sadness. So maybe it would be worthwhile to think a little bit about, how does this character express sadness? I mean, everybody does it in a different way. Let me just put a note here. Consider how this character expresses her own sadness. Do people agree with me on that, or am I being too picky? brothers usually aren't the smart ones. No, they're not. No, they're not. Rogue enhancing my lips and black pencil shaping my brow. My suggestion. I found it repeatedly using the same noun in the same sentence can mess with flow. Yeah, I picked up on that too. We'll get to that in a second. What about stating that she cautiously looked at her reflection? Cautiously isn't bad. I don't know if cautiously looked at her reflection is a cliche. I kind of like the word cautiously. Or she looked upon the solemn expression on her face in the reflection. That might be cliche. And it's a little wordy. Maybe pouting my lips, avoiding my reflection in the gold frame mirror. No, not too picky. Pouting my lips, avoiding my reflection in the gold frame mirror. That's a good one, actually. Bernadine. Avoiding my reflection. That might be worth considering. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, placing my heavy head in my hands. Okay, so, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think this really does anything. I mean, heavy head, that's definitely a cliche. And I still kind of think that it's a cliche that doesn't even really make sense. I mean, what's a heavy head and what's a light head? What does that really mean? I mean, yeah, you're putting your head down, like, because maybe the weight of emotion, but I just don't think heavy head really means something. I mean, what does it mean when I have a light head? Or lightheaded? I mean, okay, fine. But I think you know what I mean. I like that one too. Yeah, I'm assuming you're talking about the cautiously. So I think just placing my head in my hands, or even maybe the verb here. Maybe this is where you can spark something. Maybe there's a better word than placing. I mean, even like drop. I drop my head in my hands. That's not a very good verb, but at least that demonstrates like the drop would almost have that heavy weight sort of imbued into the verb. What do people think about that? Heavy heart. She does say heavy heart at some point, I'm pretty sure. And it was later in the story. She says something about a heavy heart, and it was in a sentence that I actually really liked. This aside, though, so placing my head in my hands, shaking it left to right, and letting out a low whimper. I actually like this. I found it very believable. Because I think I've done that before. Where I'm so worked up about something that I just kind of let out like a sound without even really trying to do it. So I actually like that. Okay. Layers of red and gold silk brocade cloth adorn my body. So I thought that maybe there's a little bit too much here. So let's see here. Gold, adjective. Silk, adjective. Brocade. I'm not really sure what a brocade is. Let me just do a quick Google, just so I'm on the same page. A rich fabric woven with a raised pattern. Okay. So maybe cloth is unnecessary, because if that's what brocade means, then oops, what did I just do? You don't want to use too many words. Sometimes it's good to just kind of act like the reader knows what you're talking about, without being too or offering too much explanation. I think just saying a gold silk brocade, or even just maybe gold. I mean, is silk something unusual about a brocade, or are they usually silk? What did it say here? A rich fabric woven with a raised pattern, typically with gold or silver thread. So it doesn't seem to necessarily be silk. So I mean, I could live with that. A gold silk brocade. You did when your brother texted. Oh, I bet I did. I mean, I got so worked up about it that I probably did do something silly when he called and I wasn't even realizing my own actions. But I like layers of red and gold silk brocade. I like that, actually. I think if you get rid of the cloth, the rhythm works well, and I think it's a nice image. Adorn my body. I actually like that verb too. Not gonna lie, I like that verb. Disguising my figure. I wasn't sure what was going on here. I didn't know if you meant literally like disguising her identity or disguising like what her body figure was. I mean, I guess that's the literal interpretation. I mean, disguising. Now I'm second guessing my own notes. Layers of red and gold silk brocade adorn my body with an obi wrapped around my waist. Disguising my figure. Maybe what I want is a comma. Maybe the and is throwing it off. Disguising my figure. What do people think about that? Disguising figure. Okay. First I would place and with a... Oh yeah, okay, yeah, Jamal had the same idea. Perfect. I think it flows with the cadence. I love the disguising my figure line. Yeah, okay. That... I was interpreting it too literally, but after talking about it, I kind of like it too. Yeah, the edit. Or the comma. Okay. We all seem to be on the same page with that. Let me just highlight it so it's obvious. Pearly white powder. Oh, I like this. I liked it a lot. Pearly white powder. I don't know. I feel like the pearl part of it just adds this, like, I don't know, texture to the description. I don't even know really how to explain it, but I read this and I immediately liked it. Really liked it. Okay, but then here, covered my youthful face and hid my scar. This is too jumbled. What did I put here? I mean, because you could just say, like, hid the scar on my right cheekbone. And I don't know why you wouldn't. Oops. Of course it's in red. I just don't see how having it written the other way as compared to this offers any sort of different information, offers any sort of different emotion. It just seems like a cleaner way to express the same idea. What do people think? That usually makes the fancy bow in the back, right? I'm not familiar with the technical terms for traditional wear. There are also mixed tenses operating in this sentence. Yeah, okay, here, enhancing. Yes, you're correct. Although, sometimes with verbs, so you start out with present tense, or sorry, past tense, and sometimes it works when you put it into the active verb, if you start it with a comma. I know I'm not explaining it very well. Sometimes it works. Let me just read it out loud again. Pearly white powder covered my youthful face and hid the scar on my right cheekbone. Rouge lips enhancing my down... Okay, I agree. Jamal's right. So that needs to be fixed. Blue, whatever. I don't even know if you need to add that it's the right cheekbone, just cheekbone. I mean, I left the right in there just because, I mean, we don't have the right to tell her what she wants to describe and not to describe. I mean, if it's important to her that it be on the right cheekbone, that's perfectly fine with me. But it's just the whole, located on the right side of, I guess, yeah, it's just, it's too wordy. But if she wants to leave the write in, she can do it like that. But you're right. I mean, it's not necessary. So I'll just do that, but it's optional. Something was 2 weeks ago talking about the difficulties of staying in the right tense. I think we talk about it a little bit every session, at least, a little bit. And it is tough because sometimes, I can see why she changed verbs in this part. I might have even done the same thing, honestly. It gives a sort of poetic vibe to the writing, and it does feel like it works. I didn't catch it the first time I read it, like on my own on paper. Jamal caught that one. Where was I? I think somebody mentioned the lips thing, and I caught that too. So it's just weird to repeat like such an important noun. Rouge lips enhancing my downward lips and black. I think you probably want to fix that just to make the reading a little bit more entertaining than just using the same verb. I'll just write consider, or I said verb. Consider your nouns. Sorry. Oops. I'll start out here. I like this part though. And black eyebrow pencil shaping my brows. Shaping is a really great verb in this part. I like that. My help felt so okay. I'm glad that we discussed that English was a second language. I didn't want to ask an insult, to be totally honest with you, but when I read it, I kind of did get the feeling that maybe English was a second language, because like this doesn't really make sense. My head had a throbbing pain, or I felt a throbbing pain in my head. It does feel like someone that doesn't speak English as a first language, but I mean, it's a pretty easy fix. But I would say that it's not really an effective use of language. Throbbing pain is kind of a cliche. It's kind of cliche. I would try to find a more specific, a more original way to describe the pain in her head. I mean, how does pain in like a headache that's occurring for the princess right now? I mean, how does it feel for her? What is her interpretation of pain? Those are the things you want to focus on to really give it its own personality. Again, another part here. You had so many descriptions that I don't know what it is. I mean, they're very literal descriptions, but maybe, I don't know. I don't know how to say this. It's just some of the terminology. And it feels like there's a lot of culture in this particular story that adds, it just adds something to the writing. I mean, I've never heard anyone really describe hair that way. I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it, but there's just a lot about your writing, moments where it's very clear, it's very direct, but it's using terminology or language that might relate to another culture. And it's just interesting to me as a Canadian, because I don't get to experience a lot of this. The lips, I didn't pick that up myself. Why not just state my head throbbed? I mean, you could say my head throbbed. Okay, actually, that's a good point. Pain is redundant after throbbing. My head throbbed. Everyone knows what throbbed is. So you could just say that. I still kind of stand by what I said, trying to, infuse a little bit more originality, make things, more specific to a character's interpretation of events rather than, if you know what I mean. But I mean, that all comes down to voice as well. You can't tell somebody too specifically how to write their story. I'm just offering ideas. But there's just so much good description in this and so many well-selected verbs that I feel like you can do better. Okay, and then this was another moment where I thought, I'm going to highlight this. Another moment where I thought that sort of English as a second language was coming through. Sorry. My slanted eyes seemed to be more apparent as I continued to scrutinize myself on this final day of my last identity. I really like the idea in this sentence. I just like that that whole description, like my last identity. I really like the idea that you've got going on there. Like this is the final version of herself through her life. And I'm actually okay with the just saying like my last identity. It's more so the rest of the sentence that seems a little bit jumbled, a little bit hard to understand. My slanted eyes seem. Okay, so that's right there. That's a verb issue. You want seemed because we're in past tense. Be more apparent as I continue to scrutinize myself. I mean, so my slanted eyes seem to be more apparent. It sounds a little racist, if I'm being totally honest. My slanted eyes were more apparent. I think what you're trying to say is my eyes slanted as I continued to scrutinize myself. I think is what you're trying to say. So let me just put a note on this. Rewrite for clarity and proper English, I'll say. How do people think about? I mean, what do people think about this line? Tell me what you think about the whole. I mean, Jamal said he likes the my last identity idea. Am I alone in thinking that, or do other people kind of like that idea as well? I'm looking for my. I know I said I quit smoking. I'm trying to quit smoking. I've been pretty good about it, but every once in a while I'll take a little drag just to keep my mind in check. The description of my eyes because of the pulling of the hair back into the beehive. Okay, that makes more sense. Maybe squinted is better. Squinted or slanted, I think either one is fine, personally. It's not so much the verb I have an issue with. It was just the sort of the arrangement of the sentence. I had a note on my last identity. It's not her last identity yet. So I thought maybe my current identity. I think the way I like this because there's a feeling of finality to this whole story, right? Because she's getting married to this emperor. And I mean, if you get married to an emperor, that probably is your last identity. If you live your whole life growing up, you know, and then you get married to someone that important or that powerful, I mean, you're probably stuck with that for life. I don't think too many emperors get divorced. I don't know. Get this slanted part all together. I lost sound. Vape away, I do it too. Yeah. I don't even know where I put it. I think I put it in the kitchen somewhere. I'll try and get through this before I start crawling to the nicotine. I didn't have too many issues with this paragraph here. I thought cool breeze. I mean, that is a cliche. You probably want to do a little bit better than that. Can you tell me what secure is? I read that and I didn't know what it was. Feeling of loss also permeates throughout the story. I think the last accentuates that. I agree. Completely agree. And it adds weight to the ending. It gives it more value. It sort of builds up tension to that moment because you think that this is kind of the way it is, and then there's that, I mean, it's almost like an inciting incident at the very end. Cherry blossoms. Okay. Cherry blossoms filled the air. Are you saying the smell of cherry blossoms? Or quite literally... Okay, let me just see if I can get a visual. Okay, I don't think this is what you're talking about. Was this pink-haired man floating around the room? Why am I writing cheese? Cherry. Oh my goodness. Okay, so are you talking about like petals? Petals floating through the air? It's kind of a nice image. kind of like those trees, actually. Look at that. That just looks so relaxing. Get out of here. I'm not accepting. Okay. You can't look at anything on the internet. They just want you to sign up and create an account, whatever it is. Maybe you meant whole commotion rather than full. Whole. Don't think full is necessary before commotion. Where are you talking about? Oh, here. Finally, I get to spend a few minutes by myself in my quarters after the full commotion. Okay, I see what you're saying. I mean, you are right. The full commotion, full isn't really, because commotion is commotion. I don't think full is the right word. You could say something like hectic, but I feel like commotion is hectic on its own. I don't know if you need an adjective for commotion. I think the verb kind of does the job on its own. Or is it? I think that's a noun in this case anyway. I was referring to fragrance, but I love the petals falling. Okay, so maybe we just need to be a little bit more specific in here. So just a little bit more descriptions so that we kind of know what you're talking about. Teeny bit more description. So, and I think Nova's right. Something needs to be looked at here. The full just doesn't really seem like it works. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to let Phuong decide for herself how she wants to handle that. Spend a few minutes myself in my quarters. Watching people trying to dress me up like a rag doll since sunrise. When I read it in my head, this feels like it's kind of clunky, but then when I read it out loud, I actually like it. People trying to dress me up like a rag doll since sunrise. I think that's going in green. I do like that. There's something about the rag doll description. She just seems so like just so at the mercy of these other people. She's being forced into this situation. I think it's a really great description. So I also don't think you need an adjective before commotion. Full isn't really doing anything there. Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, you could say something like after the hectic commotion or the loud commotion or whatever, but I think that commotion, well, let's look at the definition. If you ever don't know, just look at the definition. Commotion, a state of confused and noisy disturbance. I mean, that sounds pretty full on its own. Maybe other people agree. So, yeah, I think you can get rid of full. If you want to add an adjective, you could, but just be aware of what that word means and that it's probably doing most of the work on its own for you. Trying to dress me up could be changed to people dressing me up like... Okay, I see what you're saying. That's a good point. Because trying to dress and dressing are two different things. It would almost be like they were unsuccessful. That's a good catch. You guys are getting good at this. You're catching more stuff than me now. So, all right, were they successful in dressing her like a rag doll? And then I'll just highlight that. Okay, that's a good catch. Wondering if since sunrise is needed in that line. The sentence still communicates that she doesn't have a lot of time for herself because the people are trying to get her ready for the coronation even. Honestly, I kind of like the sunrise because it just adds a lot of imagery. It's just, I don't know, when I read it, I just picture her. I picture people like just pulling on clothes and kind of like jerking her around a little bit, like just trying to get it to fit. She doesn't look very happy about it. And then, maybe through a window or something, you can just kind of see the sunrise. I don't know. I thought it added a nice bit of imagery to the line, but if people disagree, if we can highlight it. What do other people think? Cacophony of people. Are you saying instead of commotion? Because I think commotion's a pretty good word. It was just the way that it was being, just the way that the adjective was positioned that I thought that maybe, well, actually Jamal thought that, or who was it? Sorry, someone pointed out the full commotion. Maybe it was you, Nova. I just had an issue with the adjective after observing it. I think commotion's a pretty good word. I like sunrise because it spoke to how long the process is taking. It's a big production. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's taken all day. So, there's a lot of power in those two words, since sunrise. After you take like the imagery sunrise paints, I just thought that the sentence is a bit of a mouthful to read. Finally, I get to spend a few minutes by myself in my quarters after the commotion of people trying to dress me up like a rag doll. Okay, I'm seeing what you're saying. It is a bit of a run-on. This is going to be one of those things that Phuong is going to have to decide for herself. We can't rewrite sentences for her. We can point issues out, moments where we feel like things can be improved. So maybe what am I going to do here? I'll underline it, and I'll just put feels like a bit of a run-on sentence. Consider breaking into two sentences or restructuring. Unless somebody has a suggestion. It's okay to have longer sentences, so look at Margaret Atwood. No, it's totally fine having long sentences. There's writers that will write sentences that are a page long. But if the rhythm doesn't function, and if I feel like if it feels like if the structure isn't proper in the sentence, then it can feel like a run-on. But if there's proper grammar set up, then you won't get that. You won't feel that way. You won't feel it as it's read out loud. I mean, finally I get to spend a few minutes by myself in my quarters after the commotion of people trying to dress me up like a rag doll since sunrise. That is a run-on sentence. It's there's a comma missing somewhere, or it could be two sentences. It's okay if it's one sentence, but there's probably a comma or a semicolon that needs to be put somewhere. I have a few minutes alone in my quarters. Well, okay. We know that we don't need the get to. Finally, I spend a few minutes by myself. I mean, okay. You could, as a suggestion, I mean, I don't know exactly what she's doing, but you could hypothetically write like sit. It's turning into a mess. Finally, I sit by myself in my quarters after the commotion of people trying to dress me up like a rag doll since sunrise. That helps it a little bit. I still feel like maybe we need a different verb for trying to dress. Does someone have a different verb? The commotion of people stuffing me, not stuffing, people doing something to me like a rag doll. Starting to sound dirty. People trying to dress me up. There's a different word, a different verb to kind of do the job of those three words. Like a rag doll since sunrise. I mean, you could say, sit by myself in my quarters after the commotion of people dressing me like a rag doll since sunrise. It doesn't have the same feel as trying to dress me up like a rag doll. Could we put a comma after quarters? I don't think so. It doesn't sound... Finally, I'm going to say sit as I read this, but just so we're clear, Phuong, you don't have to use this word. I'm not even suggesting it's the right word. It's just maybe one verb that's telling or showing instead of kind of telling is maybe part of the problem. Finally, I sit by myself. Where did you say? Sorry. After quarters. So let's test it out. Finally, I sit by myself in my quarters after the commotion of people trying to dress me up like a rag doll since sunrise. I don't think that comma belongs there. Maybe finally is the problem. The sunrise part shows how long it's been. Let's reassess what's going on here. So she's talking to herself. She's looking in the mirror. She puts her head down and she's upset. She describes herself as my figure play. She's in pain. She's in despair. Yeah, maybe you're right. Because finally almost gives the sense that they've been doing this in these descriptions. But that's not really what's happened. She's been on her own already, so maybe finally doesn't really work there either. And it actually might be a nice... You could just use that as a sentence. I sit by myself in my quarters. And then you can fix this sentence here to describe, I spent the morning being dressed up like a rag doll. Commotion, all that. Maybe that would fix it. Because that might actually be a nice image. I mean, you spent a lot of time describing the way she looks. She looks very beautiful. She's very done up. And then, I just sit by myself in my quarters. I don't know. What do people think? That's at the beginning. There was a lot of run-on sentences in this piece. Even after this sunrise line, there's a long run-on that follows. It's good to have a mix of both long and short sentences. I agree. I mean, you want variation, but everything needs to be grammatically functional as well. Maybe finally is the problem. We're not supposed to be rewriting, but I'm thinking something like stylists and maidservants have been rushing in and out since sunrise, making me feel like a rag doll. And we can't really write for her because we don't know what Phuong has imagined for this story. We kind of just have to let her do the writing on her own. But what you can say is that maybe she should try to incorporate more visual indicators of what's going on in the scene. A little bit. I mean, okay, so again, that's the difference of showing rather than telling. I mean, she's kind of telling after the commotion, people trying to dress you like a rag doll since sunrise. I don't know, maybe that is showing. I see what you're saying, though. So we could say, Phuong, maybe part of the problem is that you need a little bit more description in that line to fix the rhythm. Lose her voice. That's correct. We do not want her to lose her voice. And at the end of the day, she's going to know what's going on in this story better than any of us. Okay. Okay. I thought this has a lot of potential. I think it could be improved, but this is a list technique that can be really, really powerful in writing. Do I know how to spell? There we go. So I think that cymbals, flutes, flutes, along with the gong and drum started to play. I don't know. I maybe not necessarily verbs. Maybe I'll take that part out. I'll just say can be improved. I think if you put a little bit more thought into the way these instruments sound, how they sort of flow into one another, you could just create a really, really powerful list. I love lists in writing. It's more of an opportunity than something that, desperately needs to be fixed. It's not like it's wrong. I'm just saying it's a good opportunity to practice. Okay, and I didn't really understand. I mean, I understand what's being said here, but this was another moment where I thought the English felt just a little bit broken. I'll just write English can be improved, because it's like this big important voice coming over the loudspeaker making this official royal announcement, and it doesn't really feel very royal. Princess Sayako marriage to Emperor Kokaku. The wedding will be going ahead and proceeding at noon today in Himeji Central Park. So I don't know. It's just something about it didn't feel very, very believable as being an official loudspeaker announcement. I guess that's the issue I had with it. Let me just. I'll put. Doesn't feel official. Okay, and then down here, I start to feel like we're really, really relying on telling instead of showing. These are things like, okay, so my confused thoughts appear again. I want to understand. Okay, so first of all, that's a tense issue. So you need to put that into the past tense. Sorry. My confused thoughts appeared again. I want to understand the purpose of marrying someone you don't love. Is it for the sake of the country? Will I ever marry someone I love? What is love? It is the heart pounding out of my chest and the feeling of my blood circulating excitedly underneath my skin, like the time I spent with Saul. I just think that these are really, really important thematics to this story. Is it for the country or is it for someone I love? And I feel like by just blurting this out without even dialogue and just sort of exposing her this deeply, it's gonna kind of cripple your story as far as the way you decide to end it. Well, okay, I guess it doesn't matter that way. I'm just saying that it's a really important statement about the story. It's a really important statement about the character. It could be very much used as a climax or a resolution, and I think that sort of information or that sort of thought process is better reserved for actual action within the story rather than just, spoken like this. I wonder if she doesn't really have anyone aside from the Saul person. I wonder who else that she could talk to, or I mean, it's a difficult predicament because I don't really know who she could have this interaction with where she could kind of expose her thought process, and it might have to all be very internal, but I just felt like you could use this a little bit better is all, I guess. The going ahead part sounded to me like it wasn't going forward, but now it is. Confused me a little. Going forward. Sorry, I strained my neck today, so if I'm turning my head weird, it's because of that. I don't know what you're talking about. Going ahead. Oh, the wedding will be going ahead and proceeding at noon today. Yeah, so that's kind of where I was talking about. The English it just doesn't sound quite right. My confused thoughts, she was internalizing, so I wasn't sure how to share her thoughts. Honestly, it is a tough one, right? Because how do you express that through a character that doesn't really seem to have anyone to talk to? How do you express those thoughts through action or something. I mean, I would try to superimpose it on the plot. I would let the plot put her in a position where she has to make this decision, or come to some sort of conclusion about how she feels between, sort of the oath to her country and the oath to herself. That's what a plot should do in a story like this, I think. That's almost like your character telling you right then and there what she's really thinking. It's kind of cool, actually. It's like your character started to breathe for a moment. She told you what she was thinking. And that happens a lot with writing, but that's the kind of thing that you would probably take out during editing and let it be expressed through action. Maybe reflecting back on a conversation with her mother, telling her why she needs to marry. Well, we don't know if it was her mother that forced her into it. I don't think it said that it was her mother. But I see what you're saying. She could do a flashback. A flashback could be cool. I don't know how you do a flashback well. I don't really use flashbacks in my writing. I don't really have any experience with them. I mean, present action is always going to be better just because you don't have a timeline that's jumping around. You don't run the risk of people getting confused if things are happening right now, if they're happening before, yada yada. So it's not an impossibility. You could do a flashback, but you'd have to be careful. You'd have to do it in a smart way, just so that you don't lose people. Okay. Again, bathe in the river under the golden sun. There's something about golden sun. I just really like this. You have so many good descriptions in this story. And again, like I said, like the golden sun. It's very simple. It's very straightforward, but I just liked it a lot. Here we have a cliche. Remember the first time we met as if it was yesterday. And this is actually kind of drawing back to what we were talking about with the last writing we did. Sorry, I can't remember the name. What was it? Oh, shoot, I'm so sorry. If you're here in the chat, I'm forgetting your name. Susanna. It was Susanna's piece. And we were talking about that first moment in a love story when two characters meet. It is very difficult to write those moments in an original way. And even here, talking about that first moment, I remember the first time we met as if it was yesterday, already falling on cliches to try and express that romanticism. So anybody who writes a romance story needs to put a lot of thought into what is that first moment the characters have when they fall in love or meet for the first time or whatever. Because if you're not being conscientious about the writing, you are almost certainly going to be writing cliches. So that's really all I have to say about that. I hope people agree with me, but if you don't, please let me know. He sweetly said, this, I don't know how to put a rule to this, but we would say said sweetly. Sweetly said doesn't sound right. I don't know if it's because you don't need an adjective after a verb necessarily, but in this particular case, that just sounds more natural to the English language. Here's another moment with repeating nouns. And again, like same as before, like lips. Lips were a very important part of that moment, that description. And then again, here, eyes are a very important moment. I mean, it almost makes me wonder if it was done on purpose. But I don't see what the purpose would be of repeating nouns like this. So I'm going to say careful of repeating nouns. And his smile reach. Okay. Smiling from ear to ear is it's a cliche. Like I said before, I'm being rough on you about the cliches, but it's only because you've had so many phenomenal descriptions that I know you can do better. And just saying, rich caramelized sugar this is so good. This is my favorite description in the whole story. Even when I read it the first time, I thought, oh God, I love that. His thick brown hair, from rich caramelized sugar to the deep earthy hue, shapes his face. I think my favorite part is the rich caramelized sugar. It's just I really like that. It's a really, really great way to describe it. I've never heard. Again, I think maybe it's because it's a romance story, and you're comparing it to these sort of romantic ideas or these I mean, rich caramelized sugar. I mean, it's something that people enjoy. I mean, most people are going to be happy to eat sugar, whether in candy or whatever. So I don't know. There's just something about it that I just think really works with the tone of the story, the genre of the story, and those sorts of comparisons. So I just thought it was really good. And then again, here's another one. Gravity would pull us closer. I thought it was just a great way to describe it. Shapes his face with every word he spoke. Gravity would pull us closer. It's just that it's just so weird to me that you do have a number of cliches in the story that it's like, does she not know it's a cliche? But then you have so many other moments where the writing is so original, it's so direct, and the whole idea of gravity, like this unseen force that's just dragging them towards each other, that's just such a great way to write it. I'm a little baffled at this story, to be honest. No, I don't know what is cliche. A cliche is something that a lot of people would say. It's like a euphemism almost. Shit. What's a cliche? I can't even think what off the top of my head. I don't know. Cried like a baby. He cried like a baby. Cried like a baby would be a cliche. I mean, everyone said that at least once in their life. It's a common expression. That would be a cliche. So common expressions in writing. So like I was saying, smiling from ear to ear. I mean, that's a very common expression. It doesn't benefit your writing to use the same language as everyone else. But then, rich caramelized sugar, talking about gravity, all these things like that, those are new ideas, and that's why they have so much power in the writing. An overused phrase, eat or be eaten. I mean, you're right, Bernadine. If I saw that in... Okay, the only thing is, I think there is a difference between a cliche and a euphemism. Eat or be eaten. I guess maybe it just depends on the context. Like if it was written in like the narrative, eat or be eaten, I'd say no. Like, you can do better than that. But depending on the context, if a character was speaking and had a line that said eat or be eaten, it might actually work really well. So I think it's just context. That's why I wrote maybe not. No, I don't think you're wrong, Bernadine. You are right, but I think euphemisms can sometimes work really well in dialogue. I mean, euphemisms are amazing in music, especially rap. Someone can have a really great line with a euphemism in it, because it just sounds like they just made it work really well. So it definitely depends on context. A Russian with an infinity for bombs is a cliche, but you know what's not a cliche? We're never going to get past the ghost taxi thing. Noted, I didn't know. That's okay. I mean, if English isn't a first language to you, these are going to be new ideas. So don't worry about it. That's why we're here, right? That's why we're working together. That's why we're doing this, is to help one another. Because you got to learn everything. You got to learn everything for the first time, right? At least once. Plot points can also be cliche. Absolutely. I mean, anything could be cliche if it's been done a million times before. Yeah, that's a good thing to mention, though. Plot points can be cliched. That's absolutely correct. Especially in romance, which is kind of what we were talking about here. I remember the first time we met as if it was yesterday, setting up that moment between them. Hello, beautiful, he said sweetly. I mean, as much as I like the descriptions, I like the wording, the plot here doesn't really have any substance. Right? I remember the first time we met as if it was yesterday. Hello, beautiful, he said sweetly, as if it was like out of a movie. As if it was like, okay. Let me just fix this just while I'm reading this out loud. you would say, as if it were out of a movie, I guess. That would probably be the best way to go about it if you wanted to say it specifically that way. Yeah, like I was saying, like, there's no, aside from the description of one another, we don't really know what happened. I mean, was he just a stranger and he just walked up to her and said, "Hello, beautiful," and then they just kind of fell in love at first sight? I don't know how romantic that is, to be honest with you. Just walking up. I mean, if somebody did that to me, I'd be pretty creeped out. But as from a perspective of plot, doesn't really tell a whole lot of story with this. It's just description. I like the description. The description's done very well, but we don't really actually know anything about what happened out of a movie scene. That's a cliche. It is a cliche. I'm trying not to pick too many. I don't want to discourage people. I don't want to be a hard ass. But yes. You can Google it and oodles of lists will pop up. Search list of cliches, or be more specific with list of writing cliches or movie cliches. We could. I mean, I don't know what benefit we really get from doing that as far as like time is concerned. But if anybody, wants to investigate what a cliche or some examples of cliches, that's great advice. Maybe, Phuong, if you wanted to try and educate yourself a little bit more, if you don't feel totally. I just found clichefinder.net. clichefinder.net. That's hilarious. That's awesome, though. Thank you for putting that into the chat. I had no idea such a thing existed. Okay. Something else here. I feel like there's a change going on in this moment where it deserves another paragraph. She's alive in this moment. And then sometimes, like, what I find when people make a paragraph break, it just forces the end of an idea into a new one. And I feel like this is an idea in its own. She's living this moment, and then she kind of snaps out of it, and she's, I gotta get this out of my head, kind of thing. And I wonder if switching to or creating a new paragraph would be effective. And I also wondered if you should just get rid of the end of this. I don't know how much it really. My fingers pressed against my heart to stop the tears from forming. I mean, I would say the end of this is kind of a cliche, but I kind of like the idea, like just the way it was described. Like my fingers pressed against. Okay, first, pressed against my heart. Yeah, so my fingers pressed against my heart to stop the tears from forming. It's just kind of an interesting way to kind of express that. So I'm actually okay with that, but all I can feel is the pace of my heart beating and shallow breathing. I think it maybe just works better on its own like that, just cutting off the end of it. And then, okay, here's another thing that I think is common. I mean, okay, in this particular case, there was a knock at the door which startled me. You know what? I take it back. It's fine. Maybe it's the comma I have a problem with. Or you could do... Maybe it's the passive language I have an issue with. There was a knock at the door. I mean, you could say that. A knock at the door startled me. Hey, Pamela. How do you express her surprise or wake up? No, it's not. I changed my mind. Startled is fine. I just wonder. Maybe it's the passive tone of this that bothers me, because it needs to have a lot of, I don't know, weight to it. Maybe a lot of action to it to convince the reader. But when you write it with passive verbs, it dilutes the effect. So you could say, "A knock at the door startled me." I still think that maybe there's a better way of saying it than that. Like I said, I'm okay with the verb. I just think, "A knock at the door startled me." I don't know. I'm just saying that get rid of the passive tone. Be more direct. I think everybody would agree with that, especially in a moment like that. Okay. Okay, I think that you're trying to say something different than what you've actually written. Prison Sayako, there's a gift for you. Excited by my trusted servant, Yuzuna behind the door. There's something not right here. Knock at the door startled me is great. Okay, well, if people are okay with that, then awesome. Thesaurus.com is your best friend. Okay. Let's talk about that for a second. I've been waiting for this to come up. Because I got beef with stories that tell people how to write, and I've also got beef with thesauruses. Don't rely on thesauruses, because they will provide you with synonyms. And for anyone that doesn't know, a synonym is a word that roughly means the same thing as another word. So saying like jumped or hopped or I can't even think of another one, but you get what I'm saying. Synonyms. Don't use thesauruses. Just use the words you know. It's a good exercise to sit there and think about words. You will learn words by reading. But if you go to a thesaurus, you have left the domain of your voice. You are relying on a book to tell you what to say, and it will never work out properly. It will ruin your voice in your writing, and it will not sound natural, because yes, sometimes, I don't want to sound like a dick, but I really, because when I was younger, when I was growing up, like I'm saying like 14, 15 years old, when I used to write, I would use a thesaurus all the time, because I thought it made the writing sound smarter. I thought, like, this is a way better word than what I had, like, blah, blah, blah. But that's the thing about language. That's the thing about telling stories, is that if you don't use your voice, if you don't use your brain for the words that you would commonly say, then you will destroy or have an impact, at least on your voice in the writing. That's basically what I'm trying to say. There's some people can use thesauruses maybe if you know how to use them properly. I wouldn't even say that I know how to use a thesaurus properly. If I use one and start looking at synonyms, I start getting tempted to use words that I would not normally say, because I think, oh, that's a great word. I love that word. But that's my 2 cents on thesauruses. I'll never make you listen to that rant again, I promise. But I knew that this thesaurus talk would come up eventually, and I just had to make that clear. Because I just think everybody has the potential to be a really fantastic writer. And if you start second-guessing yourself and doubting yourself and running to other books and other resources for information to, strengthen your writing because you don't have faith in it, that is when you start losing integrity of the art. You gotta be yourself. You gotta write like yourself. I don't think you need to use outstanding words to express the way you think or feel. My 2 cents. What are people saying? I love this thesaurus. It's one of my writing Bibles. And it might be, and that's fine. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, their process. That's just personally the way I feel. Knock the door. Startled me is great. I love this. Yuzuna was expressing she was excited. Okay, so Yuzuna was excited. Excited by my... Okay, so I think you're trying to say exclaimed. I think maybe that's what you're trying to say. Excited is... excited does not describe speaking. You could say said excitedly. Yes, exclaimed. Okay, we're on the same page. I like a thesaurus when I have the word on the tip of my tongue. Cliche. Now I've got everyone's brain wired for cliches and just... No, you're right though, Bernadine. I do that too sometimes. If there's a word that I know is on the tip of my tongue that I can't think of, I'll try to think of a word that's similar to it and go to a thesaurus to figure out what word that's already in my head. But I think that's fine. I mean, I'm not seeking out a thesaurus to learn a different word or unusual word. It's a word that I know. I'm just stupid for a second and I can't think of it. Might also use it if I already used a word and want to find a different way to express it. I mean, that would be the general use of a thesaurus, to refer to it. Okay, this is what I'll say. Thesaurus should be a last resort. Maybe we can agree on that. You should sit there and try to figure it for yourself. You should try and do the work on your own, rely on your own vocabulary. But if you really can't figure it out and you really need a kick in the butt as far as, figuring out a good word to use, then okay. But I would say last resort. I think everyone has the potential to be a really fantastic writer. Slap that shit on a t-shirt, man. Oh, Nova, I don't know where you come up with this stuff. I'm getting sidetracked. I'll just highlight this, but I think we're on the same page for that. Okay, asked curiously. If you're asking something, you're already curious. So that's unnecessary. So I'm going to put redundant. It's like saying I yelled loudly. You know what I mean? Like yelled is already doing the job of loud. Asked is already implying that they're curious. They're asking a question. Also, synonyms may have different nuances. For example, expensive and costly. Costly implies negative and is often used in a more metaphorical sense, such as costly mistake. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's why I think it's important to rely on your gut instinct of words, because you will use words that are specific to certain contexts or emotional situations, however you want to describe it. But if you start going to a thesaurus, I think you'll start to lose some of that edge to it. And you'll just think, oh, that's a good word. That's a great other word to use to describe this moment. But I always think that you probably have the words in your head that are right. Started to flood back. Okay. Memories started to flood back. That is also a cliche. Common expression in language. Okay. This doesn't really matter. In fact, it doesn't matter at all. But it just made me laugh. Because I don't know what it's like in other countries, but in Canada, or probably the US as well, if somebody said my little black book, it's typically a book that belongs to a man where he keeps all the phone numbers of the women he sleeps with. So it was just funny to, it specifically said my little black book. That's how that's exactly what they would call it. So it kind of made me laugh reading that. I'm sure that's not what Phuong intended to express through the writing. I think she was just trying to paint a picture, but I just found it ironic. It doesn't really matter. I'm just being funny. Okay, there was an issue here with the verb. Oops. So in waiting, stood there silently and waited to receive further instructions. It was just a tense issue. That's easy. That's an easy fix. My dear Sakura, so you need a comma and you need to capitalize. Now I'm having second guesses. No, you don't need a comma there. I'm stupid. Oh my god, I need nicotine. Just the capitalization. Why did I put that in there? Now I'm confusing myself. Sorry about that. Just the capitalization is fine. I like this line, but I think that this is redundant. I mean, it's kind of weird to point out redundancies in dialogue, because every character is going to kind of speak for themselves. But we can dream and lie under the infinite sky where the sun and the moon meet. If somebody meets, it's already implied that it's at the same time. You can't meet at different times, right? My little black journal. No, Bernadine, I was just being ridiculous. She doesn't have to change that. It's just me projecting my own cultural ideas onto something, but it doesn't have to be changed. I didn't know black books was for that. It's a euphemism, or I don't even know how you describe it. It's a terminology that maybe in Western culture people refer to it as sometimes, his little black book, usually referring to a man. And it's kind of old-timey. I mean, nobody has a book with phone numbers in it anymore. And it just I don't know. I just read it and I just thought it was funny for a moment. There's not a whole lot else, honestly, that I had issues with. Lightly touched. There's certainly a better verb for that. Maybe somebody can suggest one. Grazed, the front cover. I mean, somebody give Phuong a couple examples of verbs that could replace lightly touched, please. Okay. And then this was... I spun towards Yuzuna with a hurried voice. Get my sandals ready. It feels like in a movie when they're like, start the car, because they're in a rush. But I don't know how you prepare sandals. Maybe bring me my sandals, but I won't lie. I kind of laughed when I read it, because sandals, the whole point of sandals is there's nothing you need to get ready. They just slip on, right? So I didn't really understand why there was so much pressure to get these sandals ready in the text. All right, guys, I have to jet. Oh, that's no problem. For a first go, you did great. This is an amazing short story and a fabulous first reading. You should be proud. Keep the good work growing, and please keep sharing with us and everyone. Good night, Nova. And yeah, I do want to agree, just for the record, that this is really good for a first story. I mean, yeah, we're picking it apart. That's what we're here for. That's what happens to every story. It's the point of the group, to get better. But for a first story, this is pretty amazing. Can some people please tell me what they think about the sandals thing, though? Am I the only one that read that and was a little confused? Here, I'll just be right back. 20 seconds. I didn't notice it at first, but you're totally right, Dominic. I'm assuming you're talking about the sandals. I hope you're talking about the sandals. I'm gonna drink a Kool-Aid jammer. I was at the grocery store 2 days ago, and I saw Kool-Aid jammers on sale. I hadn't had Kool-Aid since I was like 10 years old. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get a box of Kool-Aid jammers. And they're so good. They're so sweet. It's insane how much sugar in these. But I'm totally addicted now. Get the jet ready. Thank you. It's exactly the way that I just like a very intense action scene in a movie. Just get my sandals ready. I don't know. I thought it was funny. I know it's not intentionally funny. I'm not laughing at you, Phuong. It's just it. I think what you meant to say was like bring me my sandals or something like that. Just I need to get going. Please help me prepare to leave. But it was just the way it was written was kind of funny. Sorry, I'll mute the mic when I drink. I know it sounds really loud and gross when I take a sip of tea or something when the mic is running under my mouth. Um, that's pretty much all I got. I mean, let's talk about it as a as a piece of writing rather than individual portions. What do people have to say about the story? And Fung, do you want to come back on call? If you'd like to come on call, if you want to ask the group a couple questions, if there's anything you want to say, you're more than welcome to come back on. I really like this story more so when you read it out loud. When you read it out loud, I'm not sure. Oh, out loud? Is that what you're trying to say? I liked it a lot too, actually, when Fung read it out loud. I still like the story. Okay, so let's talk about it. There's a woman who's about to get married to an emperor. She's clearly trapped in this marriage, or in this engagement at least. And she has a relationship with a previous lover, and he sent her a note, and she's leaving to go meet him. So it's quite the setup. There's a lot of potential, but the way Fung was talking, it sounded like this is the story itself, like this is the end of it. I don't. Maybe she can clarify. Okay, let's bring her on the chat, and she can talk a little bit. There we go.
Hey, Dominic.
Hi. Yeah, so if there's anything you want to say, if there's any questions you want to ask, or if there's anything you want to challenge that people have said, you've got the platform.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone. I really love the feedback. I have had a lot of challenges about understanding a few things, but everyone clarified the paragraphs and sentences. And I do have issues where do I go past tense? It's like the mixed tenses. That's where I'm not familiar with past tense, future tense, present tense. And that's what's highly pointed out, which was great for me to clarify, which I can now, when I write my next piece, I'm able to know where or what voice I should be using. I love the rhythm. I love the descriptions. I didn't understand about the cliches. I didn't know that it's not a good idea to use cliches. And now I know, and being a lot more descriptive. And what I've really learned from your first session was show and not tell. I had a lot of stuff in my story that had tell, and there were a few things in this writing you picked up, maybe one or two things that were tell, which was good for me to go back and go, oh, I didn't pick that up, but somebody else did. And yeah, sun and moon, for example, the redundancy, right? So using sun and moon meet at the same time. To me, it was just like a language for me, using sun and moon meet at the same time, not realizing you don't need to use at the same time. It's like writing a list of things for me, and you just continue writing a list, whereas for me, it's a sentence structure for me, not knowing where to stop. And you brought up being authoritative as well, which I'm not very good at, and I'll have to learn how to use that too.
I mean, I wouldn't beat yourself up too hard about the whole verb thing, and even the what the sentence is actually saying, as opposed like going back to the sun and the moon moment. Everybody who's been on here so far has written things that are over explaining or using redundancies in the sentence. I wouldn't worry about that too much. I think that's more of an editing skill when you go back and look and you really consider what the language is saying in the sentence. So I just wouldn't worry about it too much.
Yeah, no, not knocking myself about it, but it's good for me to take note so I don't use it again. And not realizing like eyes, and I use eyes twice, or ears and ears twice. I just didn't pick that up myself, which I should have as well. But no, I'm glad the team did. But yeah, the story, yeah, she's fallen in love. She's trapped in this relationship. What's the decision? she's at stake. Do I marry? Do I not marry? And Bernadine mentioned about flashbacks. I don't know how to use flashbacks.
I
That
don't
could,
really either.
that,
To be honest with
to me, it could actually just I felt like that needed to be a next chapter. I didn't know how to use a short flashback in a story like this. I found it a little bit too hard to explain it, but I'll have to work around that paragraph. I mean, yeah, that whole paragraph about it.
you.
But yeah, no, I felt that the group gave me a lot of good substance stuff that I could work with.
Another thing actually that you said, where you said, like, I didn't pick up on the repetition of the eyes or the lips wording. Um, this being your first story, you will find that, and this happens to every single writer, there's no exception, is you get tunnel vision because you've written it and you've reread it so many times while trying to edit it that your brain just starts to memorize things that you don't even pick up as being awkward. So, I mean, a lot of writers, when they write books, if they finish their first draft or their second draft, they'll usually hide the book from themselves for almost a month before they go back and do their editing again, just to let their mind get rid of that tunnel vision. So, again, nothing out of the ordinary there.
Okay,
Just
good.
Take a peek at the notes.
I just saw Jamal's comment about the second paragraph should switch with the first paragraph. Let me go back to that one. Yeah, I had a bit of a struggle with whether go with the second sentence or the first sentence. So first paragraph or the second paragraph. And I felt the first paragraph needed to have her words come through. And I felt that was stronger. In the end, I made that decision. I just went, no, I'm just going to use that.
To be honest with you, I kind of agree with your decision. I kind of like it starting out with dialogue and starting out with actual action, because the second paragraph is it's pretty description heavy, and I don't know if stories starting out with description is always really gonna hook readers the way like genuine action would. And the paragraph's a little bit smaller, so it's just easier to get through it. It's a little bit more appealing as someone just putting eyes on the page. That's my subjective opinion, though. Let me see what else I said here. My weather's where it's taught me marriage isn't about love, it's about. I'm not sure what Bernadine.
Oh, I like that, Bernadine. My mother's words haunt me. Marriage isn't about love.
Where's is that? What paragraph's that in?
Oh no, I think she wanted to add, like when we were talking about flashbacks about the mother.
Oh. The flashbacks are up to you. I mean, that's a good idea. It could be effective, but I can't even really give you advice, or maybe somebody else has written with flashbacks before. I don't know how to do it effectively. That would be the flashback. I don't know. You'll have to kind of decide that for yourself. You said the story's going to continue?
No. The story could continue just after hearing this.
I mean,
but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I kind of like stories that you know that there's an ending coming, but it doesn't really say it outright, because you kind of get the impression from the way she feels and from her behavior that she's probably going to bail on this emperor guy. You know, to hell with the consequences. That was kind of the vibe I got from her.
Yep, you're right. Yeah, there's still so much left unresolved, and I think some readers may not like the idea of it being left unresolved. I want to know more, but you know, sometimes a movie has scenes have cliffhangers, right?
Yeah.
And people walk away from a movie going, "Oh my God, I didn't like it because it didn't finish."
How would you describe the conflict of this story?
She wants to understand love. She has this whole struggle of, I'm next in line. I need to do this for the country. Why do I have to do this for the country? But the thing is, I want to run my life. I want to live my life.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always been ordered to do this, to be able. No, I've been brought up. I live in royalty. I need to do what is the order of the ruling of what the country wants me to do, what my family says I need to do. So she's at stake. She's in a struggle moment of of having to be committed, which is not how she sees life.
Mm-hmm.
And the feeling of this first impression of someone, oh, is this what love is? Is this, like, it's a big question. Do I go back? Do I go forward? But, instantly you kind of know that feeling that no, she wants to jump ship. She wants to follow this guy and not marry the other guy, the emperor.
Mm-hmm. No, it does sound like a functional conflict to me, to be honest with you. Some people would struggle to kind of explain it that way, but even from the writing, like when I read through it the first time and was trying to sort of examine it, even just in the simplest terms, you could say, she wants to be with this guy, but she's supposed to marry the emperor. In my opinion, that's a functional conflict in a story. You can make a story out of that. So in that, again, even in that regard, like, most people would trip on that in their first story. Do you read a lot?
Do I read a lot? I've read a lot of personal development books. I've just recently picked up a few books now, fiction books, that is.
Mm-hmm.
So I am reading Dan Brown, Angels and Demons,
Nice.
And I've read The Happiest Refugee from Ang Do. Just a few books, but not a lot of fiction books.
Yeah, it's just the way that you write like a first story. It gives me the impression of somebody that's been immersed in a lot of stories. Maybe not necessarily in a book, but maybe just a lot of movies or something, that you kind of have that natural gut feeling towards how a story should go or feel.
Yeah, I think I think it's experiencing life
Mm-hmm.
with particular people or knowing something, or I've just got a rich, deeper imagination. I just need to learn how to articulate my imagination.
Mm-hmm.
That's where my challenge sits.
Just take a peek here. If anyone else has said anything, I like the story. I think Jamal thinks the story should continue. It's really isn't about flashback though. It's just her reflecting back on her mother's words. Okay, so Bernadine's quantifying what she said. Not necessarily a flashback, but just maybe just letting that idea kind of superimpose what she's doing. There's so much left to be unresolved. I mean, Jamal, you could say that there's a lot to be left unresolved, but I think there is an element to this story where, I mean, Fung said, like, it's about, do I stick with the country or do I stick with myself? And she made that decision. So you could say that this is a completed story. There was a resolution. There was character development. I think it uses flashbacks often as Dan Brown. But honestly, I'm not a fan of the execution. Well, there you go. I mean, you just said you're reading Angels and Demons. So maybe there'll be flashbacks in that. Okay, Pamela's got to run. Okay. It has been about 2 hours. So, Fung, is there any last comments you want to make? Any last questions you want to ask the group before we start to wrap this up?
No, no, but I've learned so much from today's session. It really has given me an eye opener, especially with cliches and thesaurus, redundancies, using the right voice as well. But I'm always learning, but I appreciate everyone's time and energy.
Well, we really appreciate you letting us review your writing, and I hope you stick around for some other sessions and offer your opinions and keep hanging out with us, because you're
Oh, I definitely will.
awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. I know it's a little hard with you because you're almost 13 hours ahead of me, I think. What it would be?
Yeah, it's Sunday. Yep. It's Sunday now.
I've got an aunt that lives in Australia. She lives in, oh shit, I can't remember. It's not far from Sydney, but yeah, I know you guys are like a whole day ahead almost. So it's probably tough sometimes for you to meet up with us. But if you ever can, we definitely love to have you around.
Oh, thank you. Oh, Jamal's comment was, it's called The Adventure of Princess Sayako. Yeah, I agree with you. It's not a big adventure, but I just didn't know any other titles. That just came to me in that moment. And if I was to continue to write a big, like, I don't know, I'm still understanding novella, but if I had to write a big book, I, I, I would take her on an adventure.
Hmm.
Oh,
Titles are titles are interesting. I mean, in my personal opinion, I think that the title should have like, not necessarily reflect the story, but actually add an element to the story. Because I mean, that would be the first thing that somebody reads when they start looking at your story. So sometimes writers will actually use that to the benefit of the story. It helps set up expectations. It helps, add an element of surprise, because you read the title and you think it's going to be about something, and then it kind of navigates towards that or away from it. So I don't know. It's definitely an artistic expression of the story, and maybe if you decide to change the title, you can kind of think about it that way.
Absolutely. If you were to name, or anybody to name this story, what would come to their mind?
No way. We're not naming your story for you. That's all you. You get to name your story. Nice try.
No worries. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate every feedback. I'm deeply grateful for this community.
Oh, well, thanks again so much for joining us, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Cheers. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Okay. So let's wrap this up, guys. Sounds more like a title for a children's book. Depends. Looking forward next time. Okay, yeah. So unless there's any final comments that people want to make, we're gonna wrap this up. Phuong, I'm gonna send you these notes tonight. I'm gonna put a couple extra things into the end of it, just some final summarized thoughts, and then I will email this to you. I'll give you guys 20 seconds if there's any last thing you want to say. I'll be right back. Good. Everyone, look forward to everyone's stories. Thanks, Tom, for your time. You're very welcome. No problem at all. Okay, guys, let's call it a night. I'll be posting in the group pretty soon just about the next critique. But until then, keep writing and enjoy your weekend. Okay.